We'll be honest, choosing our next destination has never been more difficult.
We thought that we would have the whole world to explore in our early retirement, but now we're down to this very small list of countries that will take us.
If you're new to our channel, I'm Gillian.
And I'm Stephanie. We're a couple who retired early and headed off for a life of full-time travel. And we want to inspire you to have more freedom and more adventure in your life.
Thanks for coming back for another episode. We're here in a beautiful mystery destination today to talk about how we do our travel planning.
We have received so many questions from you guys about how we choose our destinations, how we manage visa restrictions, whether the cost of living is a factor, and so much more.
So we're going to tackle it all today, and while we do it, we're also going to give you some clues about which country we're in right now. We're kicking off the video at the beginning of a gorgeous hike. As we make our way, we'll be sharing what we've learned about choosing our destinations, and we'll be giving you a peek of our latest home away from home.
So the country that we're in right now is very warm for January, but we are expecting to get possibly all 4 seasons on this walk. Hence, we have our down jackets at the ready. Anyway, let's start things off with the elephant in the room, and that is traveling during COVID. This is definitely the biggest factor in our travel planning right now. How do we navigate all of the restrictions? And to be really honest, it hasn't been easy, especially since the EU effectively closed its doors to Canadians back in October. So we actually thought that we would be spending this winter in Portugal, but obviously that didn't work out. And of course, it's not just a question of which countries will let us in, it's also a question of whether we want to go to those countries if the rates are so high.
At this point, we're only planning our destinations a month or two out. The travel restrictions seem to be in a constant state of flux, so we need to be sure before booking any flights. We're currently working with a very short list of countries that we can go to and spending a lot of time watching and waiting to see which ones will open up. So here's your first clue as to where we are now. It's a country in Europe that's one of the few still letting in Canadians. We'll give you a few more clues as we go, so let us know if you're able to guess our location before the end of the video.
Our next consideration, visa limitations. So once our 30 or 90 days in a country is up, we need to move on. In Europe, this means we have to rotate our time in and out of countries that are in the Schengen Zone. So for those who aren't familiar, a majority of countries in Europe are actually part of the zone, which is an area that has no passport controls. So tourists can travel freely between countries, but only for 90 days.
So if we spend 90 days in Italy or Spain or France, then we need to spend the next 90 days in a country that isn't part of the Schengen, like Croatia or Bulgaria. Now we've just been outside the zone for 4 months, so we were able to come back in. And that's your next clue. We're in a country inside the Schengen Zone right now.
Our next consideration is ease of travel. So we're not looking to spend 10 hours on a red-eye flight every month. We strongly prefer to have a short flight, or even better, a train ride to our next destination. In fact, that's part of our travel ethos. So we're trying to see the world slowly, which means exploring a region as much as possible before we move on to the next one. So when we left Istanbul, we were very happy that it only took us 2.5 hours to get to this destination, which is your next clue.
One thing we've learned about ourselves in this journey so far is that the weather matters. We prefer to be in comfortable climates, not too cold, not too hot, and not too rainy. This could be the result of growing up in freezing cold Canadian winters, or maybe it was from spending 6 years living in the steamy tropics. Either way, we found ourselves chasing that sweet spot, warm enough for t-shirts, but not too hot. In fact, our current destination is known for being one of the sunniest countries in Europe to spend the winter, and that's a clue.
Now let's talk about lifestyle. When we first set out on this adventure, we thought that we would mostly want to spend our time in charming little remote villages. But what we've learned about ourselves is that those small town experiences are great, but when we're staying for a whole month, it's nice to have some of the buzz of a city, not to mention that there are more eating options, more sights, and just generally more experiences to enjoy.
But spending time in nature is still really important to us, so we try to find a balance. We're always on the lookout for that perfect mid-sized city that has easy access to big parks and walking trails. Yanina in northern Greece was perfect for this, and so is Split in Croatia. Now, we were really excited to come to this location where we are now. Here, we're getting a mix of city life and all the amazing waterfront that comes with being an island. Another clue.
Because it's us, you know that we care about the cost of living. We love tracking our expenses and sharing our cost of living series every month. We don't choose places solely because of the cost, but if we spend some time in an expensive location, we do like to balance it out someplace where our dollar goes a little further. So this particular country has a very high cost of living. It's actually comparable to Toronto, where we're from. This possibly comes from being one of the most densely populated countries in the entire world. And that's your last clue.
If you haven't guessed by now, the country that we're in is Malta. If you're not familiar with Malta, it's a beautiful little island of less than 500,000 people in the middle of the Mediterranean, just a little south of Italy.
Malta has been on our consideration list for some time now because it's one of the few European countries that's been open to Canadians during the pandemic. However, there's one reason why we're very hesitant to come here, and that's the cost of living. It's a very expensive place to visit, and we'll tell you more about that in our cost of living video coming out later this month.
Despite it being a pricey destination, Malta rates very high on the other things that we look for. It was just a short hop away from Turkey. It's warm and sunny throughout the winter. There's endless waterfront for walking and loads of historic charm.
And it's someplace that we've never been to before, so it's always exciting to land someplace new, even if it's a little windy some days. So if you've been to Malta before, let us know how you liked it. And if you're going to be adding it to your bucket list, let us know that as well. And if you like this video, you should check out the next one right here. It's all about why we love the slow travel lifestyle, and it features our time in Split, Croatia. So you can go ahead and click on it now.